Turn that damn truth on!
Powered by Arkansas, for Arkansas. This is Inside Arkansas Live.
And welcome in to Inside Arkansas Live here on this toasty but nice Thursday in Fayetteville, where the skies are sunny and the Goodyear blimp is floating around town. I don't know if anybody in Northwest Arkansas didn't see that. It's all over Twitter. Kind of cool. I'm Curtis Wilkerson, joined today by Andrew Ellis. John Neighbors, I don't know. He may or may not make an appearance later. We may have got rid of him. He says he's in a business meeting. We think maybe he's just practicing his beatboxing before the members only stream tonight. Who knows? Apologies for a little bit of a later start today. It was the first day of full padded practice at fall camp for the Razorbacks, and arguably the most important press conference of camp so far. Offensive line coach Eric Mateos with a two-man crew today. We wanted to make sure that we were tapped into that. That way we could give you guys all the latest info on what's one of the most critical position groups for the Hogs. We're going to dive into all that. We're going to get into the chat, which Andrew and I love when it's just the two of us. So make sure you get your questions and your comments in there with our vibe check presented by Basis Health. We have our HD roofing and construction heavy hitters and much, much more. But before we jump in, Andrew, first of all, my man, welcome back to the natural state. How does it feel to be home, and how are you doing today?
It feels very much good to be home. As much as I love rebelling against the norm and, disrespecting authority and all these things, I like when things get off kilter. And that's why I like a day like today, where even though I love John, it's just nice to have a change in pace sometimes, whether it is a two-man crew, three-man crew, one-man, whatever. So I like that, but I do like getting back to normalcy in my own personal life, being back at home, sleeping in my own bed, all things of that nature per Sam Pittman. I also hope that we got, practice seemed like it went pretty well. Although Eric Mateos, we'll talk about some of the things he had to say, but I hope we had some like bull in the ring, some Oklahoma drill, some, I guess I can't say there's another term for a thing you do in pads. Can't say that one. But I hope we got some of that with the football team. This is where you find out that physicality.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. The pads were popping out there on the practice fields today for the first time, because the first 5 practices or whatever it is, they've got to go through the acclimation period and get used to the weather and everything. Then they get that day off and they come out and they get after it. So chances are they'll go a little bit lighter tomorrow afternoon on Friday, and then they've got one of their first 2 scrimmages on Saturday with that Alabama A&M opener on August 30th, right around the corner. Just a heads up, be on the lookout early Saturday afternoon. We'll see what time that looks like. I think tentatively the post-scrimmage press conference is set for like 11:45. That usually means it's going to be noon or after. We're going to go live after that to break it all down with you guys. So make sure you stay tapped in for that and tapped in with us. But at any rate, getting into it here, Andrew, it's
welcome everybody. But
hang on a second.
I was wondering, first of all, you had the torn back.
Where's that voice coming from?
It was the Zoom.
Oh, because they're doing the player Zoom now.
Yeah, because I left the players one up. I was like, "What? Where is that coming?" It sounds like Trey Biddy. What's going on here? It was Trey Biddy.
Fascinating day.
Yeah, exactly.
From fire alarm to getting roasted by Mateos. It's been a fascinating day for Trey Biddy.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's I guess another reason why they got started a little bit late. They had the fire alarm going at Razorback Stadium. Apparently, the cheerleaders set it off because they were doing like the fog machines or something, and I don't know, but yeah, that happened. Yeah, our poor man Trey Biddy got roasted a little bit for some article he wrote last season about the offensive line. I was like, gosh, what's going on here, man? But the offensive line is important, right? I mean, they say the cliche, the SEC games are won in the trenches, and it just so happens to be like the critical areas on both sides of the ball for Arkansas. Everything offensively when it comes to Arkansas improving in year 2 under Bobby Petrino, all those things that we're expecting. It's predicated on the offensive line getting better, right? So we just heard from Eric Mateos a few minutes ago. We might have a little bit of a differing opinion on how we feel about it. What I like about Mateos is, comparatively speaking, I think to the rest of the staff, he really doesn't gaslight us. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't overhype it. He doesn't take the bait when a reporter's clearly trying to get him to talk somebody up. He just tells it how he sees it, for better or worse sometimes. We'll touch on all of it because it's all important here. But what was the number one takeaway that you had, Andrew, from what Mateos just had to say about his group?
Well, the one thing in terms of actual takeaways about the team and the O-line itself, because again, I think we can talk about Mateos and his personality, which is, by the way, very honest, very refreshing. Like he doesn't beat around the bush. Like he is who he is. And I think sometimes, last year we were like, man, is this guy kind of a kind of an a-hole. Like he may kind of like he just has a little bit of an abrasive, but I think that's just his personality. And again, I don't think like there's nothing wrong with that. Like most of my best friends are jerks. I think I'd probably get along with Mateos pretty well outside of this setting, outside of football and all that. But I think the big question again we all have with this offensive line is that right side, right guard, right tackle. What's it going to look like? And I think that if you look at this press conference, if you were hoping to find out some clarity on that spot, we did not get that. And were we really going to get that on August 7th? I mean, they still have 3 weeks, 4 weeks worth of practices to figure that out. But a lot of times, again, like you said, with these position coaches, they don't really, if they have someone they're really excited about, they're going to come and tell us about it. If someone's not performing well, you're going to kind of be able to tell there. I think Mateos, in his honesty, makes it clear that like it's actually not that foolproof of a thing where they know who's going to start at right guard, they know who's going to start at right tackle, which again, not a big deal, not surprising. But I guess that was like kind of disappointment is probably not the right word. But I was hoping to get some type of inclination of like where that's headed. And I don't think we really got that, though I have my guesses. But like you said, with Eric Mateos' personality, it's just very interesting. I mean, there was at one point where, like you said, they asked him who was going to start at right guard there on the right side. And he's like, today's a bad day to ask me. They all pissed me off today. They all were good, but they all did the things that pissed me off. But he's like, and the funniest part was he said, if you catch me at the donut shop, maybe I'll be in a better mood. So you could ask me then. I thought that was hilarious. But again, as someone who's, sitting here talking about the football team, I like it when it's spelled out for us and they just tell us what's going to happen and how they feel. So I thought it was actually like, on one hand, it's cool that Eric Mateos isn't really that guy who's going to do the sunshine pumping, is going to do the, hey, here's what we think about this guy here. Here's what we think about this guy here. But, it was very interesting. And that's why I was looking forward to his press conference, because he's the most authentic of all these position coaches, I feel.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He had some not one-liners, but just some witty things that he said that cracked me up. He sat down at the podium and he looked over at Kyle, the communications guy, and he was like, "Hey, next time we do this, can you get a Diet Coke in front of me instead of a Coke Zero? Thanks." And it kind of came off. He's one of those guys that I think he has the dry sense of humor.
For sure.
So if you didn't know any better, you were like, wow, he's really just kind of telling this dude how to do his job. It's crazy. But yeah, he had that about the donut shop. He had another thing where he was talking about several times. He mentioned girlfriends. He's talking about Kobe Branham coming back from that pectoral. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure his girlfriend wanted him to do more bench press this summer, but he was running, he stayed in shape, whatever. So it's interesting because of the way he doesn't really BS you too much, but then you see that sense of humor and you're like, what? This guy's different, man. And I kind of appreciate him for that. But yeah, the right side is where all the question marks are. I'm with you 100% on that. And we'll talk about the other stuff here in a minute. But I thought he shed at least some decent light on the plan there, because if you remember, Sam Pittman early on was saying, hey, we're really trying to keep the Kobe and Shaq tandem together. And then, we got Blackstock and E. Harris working together as well. And we saw that for the first few days. And then I'm pretty sure at practice today, they mixed it up. I think they had Kobe Branham at right guard and Amarian Harris at right tackle during fastball today, for whatever it's worth. And he said, yeah, we just wanted the continuity for the first few days of practice. Didn't want to put too much on those guys. Didn't want to mix things up too much, just to get them settled in. And now they're to the point where they're mixing things up a little bit, trying to find that right combination there. To me, we're talking about 4 guys for 2 spots here. Obviously, Marion Harris, Kobe Branham, Keyshawn Blackstock, and Shaq McCroy. Maybe I'm crazy. I just feel like Blackstock's the odd man out here. I really do. And then to me, the question is Shaq McCroy ready to be inserted as a full-time starter right away? That's the biggest question to me. And it's either going to be him or Amarian Harris, but I feel like Kobe Branham is going to have that right guard spot locked up pretty quick. The versatility thing with Amarian Harris, we've heard so much about, he can play 4 different spots or whatever. Mateos is quick to say today, yeah, he can, and we're comfortable with that. But so far, we've just been working on right tackle.
I think that's the right move with Amarian Harris, by the way, because, one of the things I thought was interesting with him last year, and again, Amarian Harris is a guy that from the time he got on campus, you could tell they had something. They liked Amarian Harris. I mean, he was a 4-star recruit, in-state, talented. I mean, he's long. He's 6'5", 6'6", like got long arms. I always felt like physically, like just his stature and his frame makes sense as a tackle. And I thought one of the things that he struggled with as a guard last year is matching that physicality. I mean, he was like 295 at one point during the season. It's like playing inside in the SEC, you can do it at 295, but it's like I felt like he makes a lot more sense as a tackle. So I'm actually very pleased to hear that because, again, versatility is great. Yeah, you need to be prepared. You need to be able to adjust. Hell, if, Fernando Carmona gets hurt, all of a sudden you need another guard or whatever. Yeah, we can make adjustments. But I think for Amarian Harris and his future, I think it's best for him at right tackle. And he's a redshirt junior now. He's been around. He's gotten some experience. Last year was really his first year getting full-time starter reps, and he had plenty of ups and downs, no doubt about that. I think he should be better this year, and I think he's if you look around the room at guys who are going to need to be vastly improved, Carmona doesn't really feel that way. Corey Robinson, who we talked a good bit about, and I thought he was very interesting things he said on Corey Robinson. You're not asking him to be vastly better than he was the year before. Even Caden Kittler, who was coming from UCF, played a lot of football. Hell, even Kobe Branham, who didn't play a ton last year. It's like it didn't get the feel. It's like, hey, he has to take these massive steps forward. I feel like with Harris is the one guy that kind of needs to be much improved. And I think he's probably the most likely candidate if there was going to be a guy in this room that was vastly better than they were last year. And so I like Amarian Harris at right tackle. I also, again, he didn't spell things out for us. We're kind of reading between the lines here. Yeah. That was the vibe that I got, that he's the right tackle. And McCroy, who has been getting reps with the ones, I think is, a very intriguing piece. Mateos said that his maturity from day one on campus to now is night and day. They feel like he's made a lot of strides in campus, in camp so far. I think he's a nice player, but I think that Amarian Harris, it kind of makes sense for the redshirt junior who's played a little bit to be a little bit ahead of the redshirt freshman. Not necessarily the case at right guard, because I agree. Blackstock feels like the odd man out. Kobe Branham, they asked Mateos, what's it going to take? You have a guy that's a redshirt freshman, and McCroy, by the way, same thing. What's it going to take for a redshirt freshman? What are you looking for? And he was like, it's pretty much just physical maturity and mental maturity. It really is as simple as that. And physical maturity, aside from, rehabbing that pec, he's got to get a little bit stronger. But he thinks, if you can tell, he feels like Kobe Branham checks those boxes, feels like he has all the intangibles, all the things you need. And I mean, based on everything we've heard going back to last year, seems like he's the guy who's going up. And so I expect if they were starting the season today, I think it would probably have Harris at right tackle and Branham at right guard. But that's just kind of our guess based on reading between the lines of all these press conferences today.
I think I'm 100% on board with you there. For me to have the most optimism about this offensive line being, I think they're going to be improved regardless. I really do believe that. How much, I don't really know. They could go from bad to below average. Maybe they're just average. But for them to be, borderline good, in my opinion, it has always been Shaq McCroy has to pop right away because he looks the part, man. I mean, he's the highly recruited guy. He's huge. He's athletic for his size. But you always wondered how quickly will it come along for him. But that was until you started hearing some of the things about Amarian Harris. You started seeing the weight that he put on, how he's kind of transformed his body. And I'm with you. I got the vibes, and that's all we can really go off here right now, because you can talk about, oh, well, here's how they lined up at fastball today. It's going to be different tomorrow. It's like we said, don't put too much stock into those daily depth charts because they strategically mix it up every single day, at least until they get, closer to game day. And then it can be a little bit more of a reflection. But the vibes I got on Amarian Harris make me believe what you're saying about that right tackle spot, especially when the question was directly to him about, hey, Sam Pittman said he can play 4 spots. Have you been working him there? And he's like, yeah, he can, but no, we haven't. We've been working him at right tackle, man. And then with McCroy, I was hoping, and Mateos doesn't do this, so I shouldn't read too much into it, but I was hoping he would kind of do that thing where he was like, oh man, this guy, like they did with Tykeus Crawford every year, he's coming, man. He looks the part. He's got such a bright, he's coming on strong. He did say, he's pushing for playing time. But when that question was asked, is Shaq McCroy pushing for playing time? I was kind of expecting him to be like, what do you mean? Like, he's right in the mix to start. Of course he's pushing for playing time, but it wasn't that. It was like an acknowledgement of, he's doing some good things. He's sure, why not?
He used the term, he's getting reps with the ones every day. Which, again, it's a true statement. I mean, that's the same thing you could say for all those. But he didn't say Amarian Harris is getting reps with the ones every day. Obviously, he is. But it's like, I feel like the way he framed it, that's a very specific wording. I think, we're reading, we're over analyzing random quotes here, but it's like I do kind of agree. I think we're on the same page of like McCroy is probably that next guy up. And honestly, again, going back to when they got McCroy, we kind of felt like, hey, if this offensive line is going to be the best version it possibly can, it probably doesn't have the guy who wasn't on the 2 deep at Oregon last year starting and who has not played a single snap of college football. Now, I know Kobe Branham's not the most experienced veteran of all time or anything, but I think that's probably best. And I think for Shaq McCroy, it's just continuing to get better, continuing to kind of learn the offense, get mature. He also mentioned that they didn't ask him to lose weight, which I thought was interesting. You see his height and weight, and you're like, holy crap, the guy's big. But he said he's not up there in body fat, but he came to the coaching staff and was like, I want to lose some weight so I can be a little bit faster. And so I think that's all interesting. I'm encouraged by kind of a lot of the pieces they have going on the offensive line. He also said this the best freshman group he's ever had, which, is that coach speak? Is that just kind of exaggeration? I don't know, but I do actually buy that there's like good competition going on. I do also buy that they've improved the depth on the team. I don't buy that they're going to play 8 guys.
Exactly.
But I do think there's a lot of positive developments happening in this offensive line room. And we'll just see if they kind of find those right 2 guys there on the right side and if they're able to make it work. But in my opinion, the sooner the better. Because the sooner you figure out that first group, the more you're going to start sharing, getting those reps with that starting group, and they can kind of build that continuity, which is what you're going to have regardless of who's there and how talented the room is. You need to have everyone in sync. And so the quicker they can settle on that first group, the better. So I'm hoping maybe coming out of this scrimmage, we have a little bit more, okay, here's our 5. We're rolling with them. We'll adjust if we need to, but these are the guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. I actually had that written down in my notes of, from the sounds of it, at least it seems like they feel very confident in being deeper, having more options, and that's going to come in real handy in the event of injuries. That's one thing that Mateos said was basically you've got to have 5, but if you have so many guys who deserve to play, they should play, but if you don't, they shouldn't. If there's a big drop off there, you don't need that, and I agree with that standpoint of it. To where I don't think that there will be as huge of a drop off in certain positions, right? But like if somebody goes down, if your man Robinson goes down at left tackle, you shift Carmona back out. Whatever, like there are things you can do to where if you had to replace a guy, it doesn't seem like you would really be taking a downswing there like you have in years past. That's good, but I'm with you where I'll believe that they're going to play more than 5 guys consistently in a game when I see it happen, because we've heard that every single year, and it just hasn't been a thing.
And I don't know why they would want to convince us that's a thing. Because, like, again, a lot of times when coaches say things at press conference, like, we at least understand why you would want us to believe that you've got the best receivers in the country. You've got, whatever. But it's like, I don't think, like, playing more than 5 offensive line, like, whoever the best offensive line in the country is not going to rotate. They are not going to rotate. Bama, Georgia, Oregon, whoever, Ohio State. They are not going to be rotating offensive line. That's what you do when you don't know who your best 5 are. Right. And so it is, again, I think it's kind of one of those things. You're in camp. Your mindset as a coach right now is developing as many finding as many guys as you can, improving across the board. You're not in that game prep mode of how do we beat this team? And when you're trying to beat a team, you're not trying to play 10 guys. And so I think it honestly is just a product of the mentality of a coaching staff this time of year, because you're kind of in that mode. And so I'm not, again, I'm not calling Eric Mateos a liar, but I will never buy the idea that that's what they want to do is play 8 or 9 guys. But I do buy the idea that they want to have that option and that depth. And I think it was funny that he said last year they had a lot of meetings coming into games where they were talking about, all right, who's our backup at this spot? And it was Joe Moore at every spot. He was kind of like their de facto 6th offensive lineman, which is funny. Because Joe Moore never played for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Like, I know I'm sure he played a couple snaps in garbage time here and there, but it's like that tells you that was their 6th guy last year, and he never played, which just tells you coaches do not want to rotate on the offensive line, nor should they.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. And it's funny because we spent the first 20 minutes of the show here talking about the right side of that offensive line, because that's really where the questions are. And it's a completely different story, over on the other side of the ball. It's funny. Like when I think about Arkansas's offensive line this year and what we know right now, I keep getting the line from the Remember the Titans stuck in my head, left side, strong side. And I know what that means in terms of the show itself, but I hear that and I'm like, yeah, the left side is the strong side of the line. It has nothing to do with the tight end position for the Arkansas Razorbacks. We felt pretty good, I think, about, Corey Robinson at left tackle and the way that he's kind of not supplanted, but it gives them the confidence to move Fernando Carmona inside. Seems like that could be a strength for the Razorbacks here, where you got questions on the other side of the football. I kind of liked what Eric Mateos had to say about that. I'm glad that he was just open and honest about it with Corey Robinson, because we've talked so much about his strengths versus his weaknesses at Georgia Tech and what had him on the field versus not on the field. And then for Mateos to say, hey, why did we identify him in the portal? Because in obvious passing downs, we sucked last year, and we've got to get a lot better this year. So you go out and get the guy with the best pass blocking grade at PFF in the country. Great. And then it's like, all right, well, how does this work for Fernando Carmona moving to the inside? How's he picked up on it? And he said, really, the main difference is things just happen so much faster at guard. And then he went on and on and on about how he's been able to pick that up, had one missed assignment today, or maybe it was yesterday or whatever, but that he feels, you can just tell a level of comfort when his gears are turning and he's got a million different things going on in his head about his position group and where do we got to get better? What do we got to do? What are my question marks? Corey Robinson and Fernando Carmona don't seem to be very high on that list at all.
Yeah, in terms of Carmona, I mean, he was pretty much Arkansas's best offensive lineman last year on the team now. He's the most experienced guy. He's a former all-conference guy. He's a preseason all-conference guy. Like, he's the guy that just big picture, regardless of position, you don't really worry about him. And also some of the things he talked about of things happen faster at the guard spot. I know I haven't been around Fernando Carmona in the meeting rooms in a football setting, but like you hear that guy talk and you're around him. Doesn't seem like he's the type of guy you're worried about. Like, oh man, is he going to be able to process things fast enough? Like, I think he's going to be all right there. And you nailed it on Corey Robinson, man. Cause like, again, he was a top 100 overall player in the portal. So when he committed to Arkansas and he committed Arkansas over Oklahoma, had some other visits and some other interests from other SEC teams. So it was a very easy thing to get behind of, hey, this really talented offensive lineman is coming to Arkansas. That's a good thing, right? And then you and I, you kind of start looking at it and you're like, wait a minute, he was sometimes splitting reps at Georgia Tech. Oh, he had the best pass block grade in the country, but his run block grade was a little bit below average. And Mateos did not lie about that. Was like, yeah, we kind of looked at a guy and we said, hey, if he's going to struggle in one area, we would rather him struggle in run blocking because we feel like we have the culture to kind of make that work. And I think that, by the way, this coaching staff, I know that, we always do the thing of Pittman's supposed to be this great O-line coach. With Mateos and Pittman, that's a lot of really good run games under their belts. Like, I think their work kind of speaks for itself. And most of the struggles that Arkansas had last year were not in the run game, if we're remembering it correctly. And so I thought that was very interesting. And he's 100% right. Because that was the biggest flaw with this Razorback offense is anytime they got behind schedule, anytime they were behind the chains and were in, like he said, those obvious passing downs. I think the way he described it is mom and grandma know we're throwing the ball. Everyone in the stadium knows we're throwing the ball. Those are the situations that whether you want to avoid them or not are going to happen in the SEC. They're going to happen at any level. And when you get in there, it's 3rd and 9 and you've got NFL edge rushers coming at you. It's really hard to be good and be efficient as an offense. So I think having a guy like Corey Robinson, again, fills that void in such a big way. I also think, again, having Fernando Carmona inside, he's very overqualified for that. The right side is a whole separate thing. But, yeah, I love that left side. And I'll be honest with you, Caden Kittler, I don't know if he's going to be a star or anything. I also don't feel like they have a ton of uncertainty with him at center. I think they like some of the attributes he has and the experience he brings to the table at least.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you brought Kittler up because I wanted to touch on him briefly, and folks, we'll get into your chats here in a few minutes. I feel like we just haven't said much or heard much about Caden Kittler, the transfer from UCF, and in here to take over for Addison Nichols. And first of all, yes, he has been. Mateos said this earlier in the press conference, like he's been banged up the last couple of days. I know somebody said that he wasn't dressed out yesterday. I don't remember if I saw him on the fastball stuff today or not. Doesn't sound like it's anything too serious the way he was talking about him anyway. But maybe it's a good thing that we haven't heard too much about him, because usually if you're hearing about your center, it's because there's a bunch of bad snaps or, whatever. And my thought process on him, and we can talk about some of the things Mateos said, but it's like, he's new to Arkansas, but I got the sense from Mateos that the comfortability with Kittler at that position is there. And I think part of the reason why is just you really haven't had a center who's actually a center in years. It's just the weirdest thing with Arkansas. And that's okay. Like you see that elsewhere sometimes, like Addison Nichols, for example, last year hadn't played a college snap at center. All of a sudden he's your starting center in the SEC. Before that, it was Bo Limmer, a guard by trade, who slides over to center. Before that, it was Ricky Stromberg, who played the position for multiple years for sure, but he played guard his entire freshman year. Before that, it was like Ty Clary, who played every position on the offensive line at different times. None of those guys are really centers by trade. So like, I know he's a transfer, and so he's got to get used to the playbook and it's the cadence and everything with his quarterback and Petrino and all that stuff. But he was a center in high school. He was a center at UCF. He's done this before, and he's doing it at Arkansas. I was just thinking the level of knowledge and understanding of the position and everything that it entails, you have that here in Kittler. So yes, is he going to be a star? Is he going to be an all-SEC guy? I don't know. Probably not. But just understanding the position, not learning it on the fly, I think gives Arkansas a benefit that they frankly haven't really had much the last several years.
Yeah, I thought it was cool to hear Mateos kind of talk about what they were looking for in the portal. And with Robinson, of course, it was that pass blocking, that left tackle, that blind side that really could excel in pass pro and obvious passing downs. They feel like they got it. And then he mentioned with center, we really wanted someone who had played the position, and not only played the position, because again, playing center in football is a hard enough job as it is, but it's really tough when you're on the road and you're in a big time atmosphere and you're got a lot of fans screaming and you're supposed to be yelling out signals. You're supposed to be yelling out pass protection. You're supposed to be calling out the mic and all this stuff. That's a really tough thing to do. And so, you can find guys to do it. A lot of these guys on the team, hell, Fernando Carmona could probably do it if they needed to, but it's really nice to have someone who's done that before. And like to your point, like the last few years hasn't really been the case at Arkansas. And so I don't think that, if you look at Addison Nichols and how he graded out at Arkansas last year, pretty much average across the board in terms of overall grade, pass block grade, run grade. In the SEC was just kind of middle of the pack, and I thought it was just a solid center. You look at Caden Kittler, his grades at UCF, very similar to Addison Nichols, like pretty much average across the board, like not like a huge upgrade by any means. So it's not like I think Arkansas went out and got like way better at the center position, but you have a lot of experience. And again, if you compare it to previous years, they're in a better spot than they've been in a while. We'll see if he's healthy, and we'll see. I don't imagine there's any controversy there. Like, I don't think Brooks Edmondson, I don't get the vibe that he's like really pushing and like riding the tail of Kate or anything like that. And I'm not saying that's, he needs to be. I think what Kittler brings is just some stability there. And I don't think he's going to be a world beater. I think he's going to be a very solid replacement for a guy that was, solid. And I think, for at center, that's about what you need there. You need some of that stability, some of that experience. And so we'll see if they're able to maybe find new levels to his game and really elevate his play in a big way. But I think it's a really good starting spot there. And again, when you combine it with those two guys to the left of him in Carmona and Robinson, I feel like it gives Arkansas a really solid starting spot for the entire lineup where it's like, all right, we'll figure out this right side, but we know we have this. And now we can build. We can build on top of that, but this is what we have right now. And I think that floor for that left side over there, those left three guys and, with the center, I think the floor is very high for that group, which is a good thing because you have some uncertainty there on the right side, and we'll see how that looks.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, I think to a lesser degree, I guess, but offensive line improvement for Arkansas, it's almost on kind of a sliding scale. The same that, like the secondary, the pass defense that we talked about a lot earlier in the week in terms of it stunk last year. Now the pass defense was worse than the offensive line, but when you're measuring success or improvement, it's a little bit different. It's like if you're just average this season as an offensive line, it could make quite a bit of difference, especially in certain areas. Arkansas allowed 36 sacks last year. That was just under 3 a game. It's 255 sack yards a season ago. And of course, some of that was on Taylor Green. I know, holding on to the football too long, trying to make something out of nothing, whatever. Razorbacks also allowed 83 tackles for loss. That's over 6 per game. That placed them outside of the top dozen in the SEC in both of those categories. In terms of sacks allowed, the last time Arkansas finished in the top 11 in the SEC is when they won 9 games in 2021. Go figure. Random fun fact here, though, for you, because I went back. The only other time that Arkansas finished higher than 11th in sacks allowed in the past decade, Andrew, was when they finished 5th in the SEC in 2019.
2021, they weren't above it there?
2021, they were. Well, no, they were top 11, but that's what I
okay.
said. Yeah.
Gotcha.
The 9-win year. The only other time was
Gotcha.
2019.
Sorry. I'm tripping.
Yeah.
I'm tripping.
No, you're good. Which is kind of wild to me, but that does lead me into our Alumni Hall question of the day, which is very simply, how confident are you that the offensive line will be better than last year? And John had the options of very confident, somewhat confident, not sure, and then not confident. And looking at his poll right now, leading the way, 44.7% of you are somewhat confident that Arkansas's O-line is going to be improved, followed by not sure at 26.2%. Then the Kool-Aid drinkers, very confident, 19.4%, and not confident, 9.7%. Where do you fall in that range?
One, there's some decent honesty here from Razorback fans. Like I really did think that like extremely confident was gonna win that one big. I would fall probably, and I think honestly, if you asked me 3 months ago, I think I would have been in the not sure category. I really honestly would have been, because there were some questions. I mean, hell, even in spring, we were kind of hearing some questions of like, is Carmona going to play center? Is he going to play right? Like, they didn't really know what they were going to do with him too, and so there was that stability that I wasn't sure was there. I'm not saying I wasn't sold on Corey Robinson, but it's like, we kind of had some questions there as well. Caden Killer, we didn't know what to expect. I would say I'm somewhat confident just based on, again, that stability they have on the left side. Some of the things I heard from Mateos, I do like Amarian Harris, and I think he's going to be improved. The Kobe Branham thing, I mean, is a guy going to come in as a redshirt freshman and be a star? Most likely not, but I think if he's your worst piece, and he's a guy that this coaching staff has been in love with since he got on campus, I think you can make that work. One, I think that they don't have that high of a bar to clear, of course, which is very important here. So I'm going somewhat confident. Like, I would be surprised. I would be very surprised if they were worse. I wouldn't be that surprised if they were about the same. You know what I mean? Like, whether maybe they're a little bit worse in the run game, a little bit better in the pass game, but overall, lower middle pack of the SEC. But the thing that I keep coming back to, Curtis, is that I look back at, you mentioned some of those years that Arkansas has had good offensive lines, like 2021, of course, was the best they've had. And going back before 2021, I think 2015 was the year that Brandon Allen had a great year. He was their best offensive line. You look at both of those offensive lines, not an overwhelming amount of NFL talent.
No, interestingly enough.
Who got drafted in the third or fourth round, but he didn't play a single snap in the NFL. Frank Ragnow was on that 2015 offensive line. He was pretty good. I'll concede that. But like Denver Kirkland, had a stretch in the NFL. He's okay. But like Mitch Smothers, I believe, was on that offensive line. You had Brady Latham starting in 2021. And so it's like, I look at all these other positions and I'm like, man, you just have to have elite talent to play at a high level. You really don't at the offensive line. That's not to say you don't need talent. You need some type of talent. And I think there's some there. I think I can like see the path to why this offensive line would be a lot better than we expect. I'm not necessarily expecting them to be. So I say all that as a long-winded way of saying somewhat confident. I'm not super confident, because I wouldn't be stunned if they were just about the same, but I expect them to be slightly improved for sure.
Yeah. I think that I'm with you from that standpoint. And I'm a little bit anxious to see how our friends in the chat are feeling about that. And let's get over to the chat, because we haven't done that yet. And that's rare for me and you. We're usually diving head deep into the chat by now, but this offensive line conversation, we enjoy it. But let's do that. We get into our vibe check presented by our friends at Basis Health. They're changing the way that healthcare is delivered with those mobile medical healthcare deliveries. If you're sick, you feel like crap, you got a fever, you got the chills, the aches, you're throwing up, does it really sound like a great idea to just hop in the car, drive all the way across town? Probably not. In fact, it might be a little bit dangerous. And then you get to a doctor's office, you got to sit in a waiting room for who knows how long with a bunch of other sick people. It just doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. How about you just cut out the middleman and have them come to you? That's exactly what happens with Basis Health. They will send a physician out for your primary care, urgent care, IV hydration, and more. All your medical needs, they will come right to your front door. Sounds a lot better to me. Give them a shout. www.basishealth.org is the website. Scan that QR code. You see it right there on your screen, and check them out today. It's a little bit different, but personally, I think it's a pretty good deal. And I hope that they deal with baby. I need to talk to Dre and see what's going on the baby front. We just might
you think they'll come to your house and deliver the child?
I thought about that, It's because we were just at our baby classes and they were talking about, like, here's when when you've got to go to the hospital and everything. And the drive can be tricky, because you're going to have to keep an eye on your wife, and she might be grabbing your arm because she's in pain. I'm like, what if she runs me off the road? Why don't we just have Bases Health come out and deliver
Call
the
her
kit?
an Uber, I think.
It might do that too. Yeah. Sit in the back seat. Yeah. Just let them know in advance, put a towel down or something. I don't know. It'll be fine. Anyway, let's get into the chat and see how everybody's feeling. Where do we start? How about right here? Love this from Finn. She said, "Hey fellas, back at it on the beach. Good for you, by the way. To make things better, I started off with Pot at the Palace with a Kentucky fan next to us. Still here to listen to the best Razorback podcast out there. I like that a lot.
I bet that Kentucky fan was shaking his fist at Curtis's voice. Finch, I hate that I kind of know I know what's going on in the lives of these people in the chat. Finch, have you been at the beach for a month? I feel like every day you've been like, oh, another day at the beach here. Do you just live on the beach?
He might. I mean, I feel like it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a lengthy trip, man. But we hope you're having fun and staying safe in SPF, man.
Yeah,
don't skimp on the SPF.
No, that's exactly right. From Caden, he says, if our O-line is better and our wide receivers are worse than last year, does that equal more, less, or the same number of wins this year? That is a big brain question right there.
This is a big brain question, and it's a great question. One, because I think it's extremely in play. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. I'm going to lean towards slightly. I think it's most likely going to be about the same. But I think the O-line is definitively better, and the receivers are definitively worse, which, again, I do think is probably the most likely scenario here. I think it's really hard to have a bad football team if you have a good offensive line. Now, being better on the offensive line doesn't necessarily constitute good, but I think just for the premise of this question, I think if you're basically if you're selling your soul and you got to have one, I think if Arkansas's offensive line is really, truly better, and I don't mean just slightly better rank, truly a top 6 or 7 unit in the SEC, I would think that Arkansas could actually parlay that into maybe one more win. Because I think if you're just more dependent on your run game, Talon makes some things happen. I think Arkansas could probably make their offense work even with not having a ton of talent with the receiver room, but they're going to have to really lean heavily on that run game, which they honestly didn't do last year a ton.
Yeah. No, that's very true. I think of it from the standpoint of when we're talking about Arkansas secondary earlier in the week, and we're like, okay, will the pass defense be a lot improved? Well, it kind of depends on that pass rush and if they can get to the quarterback. I think the opposite could be true here, to where, hey, if that offensive line is a lot better in pass protection, the more time Talon Green has back there, listen, these guys are all, Division I wide receivers, right? Covering somebody for the longer you have to do it, the harder it is. Guys are going to get open. So if he has time to throw the football, guys are going to be able to get open for him. So I would agree with you. Better offensive line, not quite as good wide receiver. I would be a little bit more on the side of, hey, you might still wind up being a better football team because of it.
I think also, and I think I agree wholeheartedly with the premise of blocking for a long time. It's that can make a mediocre receiving room look pretty good. I think back to 2015, we're talking about with that offensive line, that was really good. I mean, Drew Morgan, not this world beater by any means, but he looked like a world beater and was an all SEC guy because he had all day to run his routes. And Dominique Reed, he wasn't productive at any level of his career ever. But in 2015, he looked pretty damn good because all of a sudden you can do these things. I think beating man coverage is a big deal for receivers. But even if you don't have those guys that can just one-on-one get open like that, there's things you can do as a play caller to kind of circumnavigate that. You can run a lot of rub routes. You can run a lot of, certain actions. You can run a lot of screens. If people are playing man coverage on you a lot, that lends itself to being able to run some screens. There's things you can do. Now, of course, you're going to at some point need to be in those 3rd and 8s, that we talked about, where you just kind of have to win your battles. But I think there's ways to kind of circumnavigate not having good receivers. There's not really a way as a play caller to circumnavigate not having a good O-line.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Heartbroken Hog, we kind of talked about this, but he said, did Mateos talk about center at all? Is it 100% going to be Kittler? Yes, it is 100% going to be Kittler. If it's not Killer, that means he's really banged up and something happened. Yeah, and exactly. I'd started this before we touched on it, but yeah, I think Killer's the guy, and I don't think he's gonna be this star, but he's definitely the clear number one guy. And Mateos said that he said that you want to have 4 centers that you're very, very comfortable with. He said right now he feels like they have 3 guys that they could put on the field get him through a game and potentially win an SEC game. And so I'm assuming he would be talking about after Kittler, what, Edmondson?
Yeah, I think he's the number 2
And
guy.
then the freshman. Would it be the freshman?
It'd have
Cash
to be
Courtney?
at least one of those freshmen for sure.
Yeah.
There's probably other guys. In real life, though, they would probably move someone like Carmona to center. I honestly do. If we got to that situation where Brooks Edmondson goes down and Kittler's already out, I don't think they would be like, all right, let's just go to our number 3. I think they would start looking around. Maybe a Marion Harris, someone like that is probably what they would do in real life.
Weren't they flirting with Carmona there? I don't know if he ever actually wound up taking snaps there or not, but I remember part of that conversation.
It's been a conversation a couple times since, because I mean, when he first got to campus last year, we didn't really know where any of these guys were going to go on the offensive line. Addison Nichols again wasn't a center. I think it's been a conversation a couple times, and eventually, if they needed to, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Okay, now we're getting to the heavy hitting stuff. Transplanted Texan says Coke Zero clears Diet Coke, and he's sorry, not sorry. Now, I think we probably both fall into the camp of just standard Coca-Cola clears all of them. But I get it for those of you who think you're making a healthy decision, cutting back on the sugar, the calories, whatever. I have to agree with Transplanted Texan here. And I actually don't think it's even relatively up for debate. I was surprised to hear Mateos say what he did about Diet Coke. I think Coke Zero clears as well.
So I'm with you where I don't drink either of these things. I just drink Coca-Cola because I'm young and I just feel like I can do it. Diet Coke is truly one of the worst things ever made. Taste wise, it's absolutely horrible, and also it's not that much better for you than Coke. I've done the numbers on this. I've talked to doctors. I've done research. It's not that much better for you to be so much worse as a product. Because like one thing, if you're eating like some greens or whatever, and you're like, all right, this is not great, but like I'm okay with not having any taste because I know this is like I'm eating fruit, I'm eating vegetables, whatever. Diet Coke, it'd be one thing if Diet Coke actually were a healthy alternative. It is not. It is absolutely going to kill you.
Yeah, I think you're
and
right.
Coke Zero, I think, is healthier than Diet Coke and better than Diet Coke taste-wise. So I'm with Transplanted Texan, even though I don't drink either of these things. Coke Zero, I don't like it, but I can tolerate it. Diet Coke, I will spit it out as soon as it touches my lips.
They all clear Diet Pepsi. I'll tell you that right now. I cannot do Diet Pepsi. Diet Dr. Pepper is okay. Diet Mountain Dew is maybe. Diet Pepsi, nah, man, it's just not doing it for me. Sorry. Evan Baker, he says, do you think it's very common for SEC teams at this point to not know who your starting linemen are? Yeah, like you're a week into camp, so there's always going to be position battles somewhere. So I wouldn't say it's very uncommon, but what I will say is it is a little bit, I don't know, unnerving, or I don't know, you just feel a little bit uneasy when it's the entire side of your offensive line that you're not sure about yet. And I think they feel comfortable with at least 3 of their 4 options there. So like, I'm not that concerned about it, honestly, but yeah, I think if you're looking at the entire right side of your offensive line, not knowing who it is when you're in fall camp, it's like, okay, we probably really need to figure that out. What does it say about what we really have here? Like, do we really have 4 guys who are just for sure SEC starters? We're going to be good no matter who we pick, or is it like what the least of the evils here kind of situation? Andrew, I'm with you where maybe after Saturday, that first scrimmage, because today was also the first day of full pads, which like Mateos said, like the only difference is you got those little knee pads that are the size of a bottle cap on. But maybe after they go through that scrimmage, they'll probably run 115 plays or whatever, get a lot of different looks. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a more clear picture and we feel better about it then.
I think I agree with that. And I mean, like, if you look at every SEC team of the last decade, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of examples where, so one of the best teams in the country enters the fall camp and they know exactly who's starting. They've got 4 returning starters and then 1 guy that's clearly a guy. I think and Arkansas's had years that it's worked out that way. It's not super uncommon for there to be position battles at any position, honestly, in fall camp. I think another thing is we're kind of doing a song and dance. Like, I think that the coaching staff secretly kind of knows who their 5 guys are, and they're just kind of rotating, getting guys reps. Like, I think if they got a call today and they were like, hey, actually the season's getting moved up and the first game is Saturday, I don't think it would take them that long to determine their starting 5 offensive linemen. It'd be one thing if we were like, we have literally no idea who's starting at right guard, but we have a decent idea it's Kobe Branham. And it'd be one thing if we were like, they have a spot at right tackle and like it could be any one of 4 guys. It's probably going to be a Marion Harrison. If not, it's going to be the young guy, Shaq McCoy. Like, it's not really like they're like out of answers. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No,
They might not even be good answers. I'm just saying, like, it's not like this, like, glaring, like, holy cow, what are we going to do? Like, they have their idea. Their ideas might not be that great, but that's, that is kind of standard practice in college football.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, wouldn't be alarmed about it just yet. But yeah, if we get through this first scrimmage and it still seems very unclear, and you get into the second one, and Sam Pittman's like, oh well, we don't know. Yeah, that'll probably raise my eyebrow a little bit. Shout out to JT Hazelwood, man, for the super chat. I didn't see it right away. She got to that earlier. My bad, buddy. He says, back like I never left. Need some optimism, boys. Let's get after it. Well, let me tell you this, JT. I am more optimistic that this offensive line will be better than bad than I was an hour ago. That's what I got for you, buddy.
Hey, that is something there, Curtis.
I feel like they're going to be.
You love Eric Mateos. I figured that out. You really do love that guy.
Because here's my biggest pet peeve in the world is when we get yelled at about the team getting overhyped or whatever, when all we're doing is just, we're like mouthpieces, man. You know what I mean? Like we watch these press conferences and we hear what Ronnie Fouch is saying about Antonio Jordan or whoever, and we relay that to you guys. And then when things go south in the season, they don't go yelling at Ronnie Fouch because the receivers suck. They come yelling at us because, right. You said this, you said that. No, it's not the way that it works, man. Like we can only go off what we're being told here. The reason that yes, you're right. The reason I love Eric Mateos is because he does not do that bullshit, man. I love it because in ways, media will be like, oh, we're just reporting what we're told, but there are ways to phrase questions to get the type of answer that you want. And there were times today where some of those folks were like, hey, I'm asking you right now to really talk up Kobe Branham. I'm asking you right now to give me the quotes that I need to talk about how versatile of a piece of Marion Harris was. Like, whatever. Hey, tell me that Shaq McCroy is like the Shaquille O'Neal of offensive linemen. And Mateos just wasn't taking the bait, man. He just kind of look and be like, hey, would you say that he's the best thing since sliced bread? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that, but here's what I will tell you. I just appreciated the transparency. It does come off abrasive sometimes. It's like a little bit awkward, but I do appreciate that about him.
So you're 100% right in the sense of like, we beg these guys to be honest, and then where they're honest, we're like, damn, you didn't give us what we wanted. You know what I mean? We definitely are going to be mad at these guys no matter what. So I will 100% concede that point. My only thing with the Mateos, and I do like Mateos. Like, he's probably my favorite. I don't want to say besides like obviously Travis Williams, the linebackers. Like if he got Mateos might be my favorite position coach in terms of just personality and vibes and everything. Not even in terms of like competency of job. My only slight pushback is last year when he did the abrasive thing and was like kind of like no selling Bob's jokes and stuff. And we were kind of like, oh man, this guy, he clearly has that dry humor. It was like, oh man, this is our first time really being in this situation with him. When you're coming off of the year where your O-line sucked, I feel like it's a little bit harder to do the like everyone's stupider than me bit, which he does do. That is his bit, but I do that bit too. So it's hard for me to knock anyone that does it. But every question that asks, it's like he kind of has the idea of like, oh, you're an idiot for asking this. Kind of that type of thing, and like making fun of Trey. It's harder to do that when you're coming off a year where your O-line sucks. I remember in 2023, I'm not going to say any names, but Arkansas's offensive line coach in 2023, and again, I'm not going to say any names, was sending messages to one of our coworkers at the time, bragging about how, being kind of smug and making fun of other teams' offensive lines. And if you remember 2023, Arkansas might have had the worst offensive line in the SEC, the single worst. So part of me is always kind of trepidatious when I see a position coach being like, or not a position, any coach or player being like kind of in a point of view of like, oh, I'm the man and I know everything. When it's like, we have to see that you do know that. Because again, all these bits, like when you're winning, you could literally go to the press conference and tell all the media to shut up their own ass. And it's like, we'll be like, oh, that's cool. When you're losing, everything you do is under a microscope.
Just give me reasonable expectations to deliver to these crazy people that we talk to every day. That's all I ask. That's all I ask.
I do, and I do think we got that today. You're right.
We did get that, but I'm with you for sure. We'll continue with your chats here, folks. But first, want to take a quick second to tell you about our partners over at Hickey and Hull Law. Divorce and custody cases are way too important to try to face alone. So let Hickey and Hull Law provide you with persistent and diligent representation to help guide you through the entire process. These guys have handled thousands of family law cases. They've experienced literally every single scenario that may come up. Nothing's going to surprise them. You know, the foundation of a strong attorney-client relationship is honesty and trust. Hickey and Hull Law prides themselves in building relationships with their clients by providing honest, principled advice and representation. You know what you don't want with your attorney? You don't want to play phone tag. You don't want to get ghosted by him. It's the worst feeling in the world. That's actually happened to me before with a settlement that I was going through with my old house in St. Louis. I'm getting ghosted by my attorney. I had to change him. It was ridiculous. You don't want that. And at Hickey and Hull Law, they understand that each case is important and they take time to meet with the clients, respond to emails. They always return your calls. That's what I really appreciate about them. Give them a call today, 479-434-2414. Check out their website, visit hickeyandhull.com or scan the QR code there at the bottom of your screen. Okay, let's hop back into the chat here and see what else we got. I think John's going to be joining us here at some point. He said, allegedly, John Neighbors will be joining us before the end of this show. We'll see if that winds up being the case. Heartbroken Hog says, what you do want to have is 2 or 3 bench guys that you feel like are good enough to start, but you absolutely must have a defined 5-man unit that plays the whole game unless someone is hurt. Is that the thing where it's like, if you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have one, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But
sure.
I figure I'm picking up what he's putting down there.
Yeah, I think he's spot on here, and I think the NFL teams. I can't remember what the number is of how many, because on an NFL team you get 53-man roster, so you really those decisions are really tight. A lot of times NFL teams will bring 3 offensive linemen outside of their starting group, a tackle backup, a guard backup, and then a center backup. It's kind of like the premise of how you'd like to do that, and I think honestly Arkansas might have that. You know what I mean? Because I think whether it's Doomerville or Broussard or whatever, like I think one of those guys counts as a solid backup at a tackle spot or whatever. I think Blackstock I know everybody hates Blackstock. I would say he's a serviceable backup guard option. Does that sound about right? And then whoever doesn't emerge from that right tackle spot, also like a solid backup option. So they might have that.
I think you are onto something there. Sham Hitman. Is this the one that John was trying to get off the screen quick yesterday?
Yeah,
because
it's got Bobby on the motorcycle and Pittman, heavy set Pittman. Nice front porch going on there. He's in the back of the motorcycle.
That's wild, man. He says, I want to see Talon be able to recognize the blitz and bark orders at the running back to help pick up the blitz. I don't think he did that one time against Ole Miss, LSU, A&M, or Texas, who all have NFL ends. Yeah, I mean, it's all the gears have to be turning in the right direction here to make this thing, operate as a well-oiled machine. Your offensive line has to be better so Talon Green can be better. Talon Green has to be better so the offense can be better. And his mastery of the system in his second year is going to be super, super important. His ability to be the quote-unquote extension of the coaching staff and pointing guys in the right direction and getting them lined up and making the checks, doing all the things that he needs to do pre-snap, all going to be very important. Yeah, it is an area where it was lacking last season, and you're going to want to see that for sure. You're not going to see it until we get into these games. And that's, I think I made the point last week whenever we were talking about Talon on, yeah, man, I absolutely believe he's going to be an improved version of himself. I think he's going to have made strides and be a better football player. How big that leap is going to be for me is going to be dependent on these factors. And I just don't think that we're going to have the answer to that question until, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe into the season. Let's see. We've got Hickory Hog here. He says, is this team better at the end of the year if the O-line wins the Joe Moore or if Omega Blake wins the Blitnikoff?
It got to be the Joe Moore, because one, that would mean that your entire line is really good, and you don't win the Joe Moore unless you either like led the country in rushing or like had like a big time offense. I would just point out that Arkansas had the leading receiver in the SEC or had a first team all SEC type of receiver that was on a mediocre offense. So it's like I definitely think it would be the Joe Moore Award. But if Omega Blake won the Blitnikoff, that would be notable, I would say.
I mean, sign me up for that. I would be all for it for sure. Could you imagine if Arkansas had this offensive line situation that's been dealing with for the last several years, and then all of a sudden this was the one? just the vintage throwback. This is what we all expect. It just took him 6 years, but Sam Pittman's got his paw prints all over this thing, man. It's finally paying off.
His paw prints.
Exactly. Oh gosh. A little basketball stuff here. Yeah. Trenton says Baba Aladatone has reclassified to 2026. If you wonder what the hell that means, he's the number one prospect out of the 2027 class, high school basketball, reclassing going to 2026. He'll be a top. Wouldn't be surprised me if he wound up at number 2 in the 2026 class. I don't think he's going to pass Tyron Stokes, but really good player, 6'8" wing forward. Arkansas has offered him. I imagine they're going to be attempting to be in the thick of things there. So yeah, definitely a name to get familiarized with. And we'll talk about that on the Pod at the Palace for sure, which Cody James brings up here. He says, I know the pod went in on the B-ball schedule this morning, but can we take like 5 tonight in the member stream just to appreciate a decent hoop schedule for once? Well, first of all, we got to turn you green. That way you can be in the member stream, my man. But when you get there, yes, we will do that for sure. Members only stream is going to be tonight at 8:00. You got to be a member with us to be able to get in on the fun. For those who did that with us a couple weeks ago, it was just me and Andrew. We had a blast with it. John's going to be there this time. It's really, we're going to have fun with it regardless, but it's going to be as good as you guys make it. So come in with your questions, and it could be literally anything, man. I mean, we're happy to talk about this kind of stuff, recruiting questions, whatever, but ask us the personal stuff, the life stuff, the goofy stuff, whatever. We really like to get into the weeds there. And that's what takes us off the rails very, very quickly. So looking forward to hopping on with the fellas and doing that as well. Let's see, just a couple more and then we'll move on. Jerry Rooney said, did Mateos already meet? Yes, Jerry, that did happen. Hopefully that you've been able to figure that out by now that you've been in here. We've been talking about what he's been saying the entire show. But yes, that did happen. Ran a little bit late, got started a little bit late because the cheerleaders set off the fire alarm there at Razorback Stadium. So good on them for doing that. Mason McDonald said, who is a star receiver you think will emerge out of the wide receivers that most people wouldn't say? Well, everybody's going to say either Omega Blake or Antonio Jordan. So we got to go.
Yeah, I mean, listen, now one, I want to make my stance clear that
okay,
I don't think there's going to be a star receiver emerge. Like I just factually don't think that Arkansas is going to have like this top receiver in the country. So I would say that, but I also think like, does Raylan Sharp count? Because I don't obviously I think we all know Raylan Sharp's going to contribute, but like I don't see a ton of people talking about Raylan Sharp as like this guy who's going to be a stud. I did see Jackson Fuller of the Southwest Times. He wrote about how that seems to be like the most consistent target is that Taylon loves throwing it to Raylan Sharp. He's in the slot there. I think he might count, but if I had to give an answer here, I'd go CJ Brown, just because I think that he's like one of the biggest unknowns. And again, I just don't think anybody's talking about him.
Yeah, I think that's a real solid pick there, CJ Brown. I'm trying to think. Jaylen Brown, maybe. Yeah, it just comes on strong, and he had the pedigree. I don't remember if he was a top 100, but he was definitely a highly coveted recruit and just kind of bounced around. It's like, all right, maybe this is your last chance, man, after everything you had going on. And then he figures it out and puts it all together. So maybe that would be my answer. I like CJ Brown a little bit better there. Trying to think if there would be anybody. Monte Harrison. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. That's what we're going to go with. Last one here, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Outside State Line says, are you guys more concerned about pass rush, stopping the run, or both? Then who are the ideal starters at defensive line that can get the job done? I'm more concerned about pass rush than I am stopping the run, because what I think Arkansas does have is some large bodies. What was Mateos calling Ian Jaffard today? A two-gapper, him and Cam gappers. Am I crazy with that? It's pass rush that I'm more concerned about for sure.
Pass rush without a doubt for me. Cause I mean, everybody, it's funny. You want to talk about one of the most underrated players in the history of Arkansas football? This is going to sound crazy. It's Landon Jackson. Hog fan. If you listen to Hog fans, they think Landon Jackson was not a productive player. Like they did not enjoy the Landon Jackson experience. And I believe he was a 2-time All-SEC performer who had like 15, 16 sacks over the last couple seasons. And again, maybe you expected him to have a 12-sack season, and so you were disappointed. Landon Jackson had 7.5 sacks last year, which is more than the entire defensive line additions they had on the team have had in their entire careers combined. Because a lot of those guys have not, a couple of them had like 1.5 or whatever. Literally, like you're losing, it doesn't sound like a lot of production, 7.5 sacks. They do not currently have that on the roster of guys that have had that in their careers. And I also think if you struggle stopping the run, obviously that's a tough way to win in football if you're constantly giving up. But if you're thinking about opposing offenses, there's not that many SEC teams who are really going to make a living like running 300 yards a game and like really just grinding out 8-9 yard gains on the ground. Like that's kind of tough. And if you suck in pass or stopping the run, you can kind of scheme around that and just like kind of load the box. Your linebackers, by the way, which I do think Arkansas's linebackers are maybe the strength of the defense, should help in that run game a little bit. If you can't get to the quarterback, SEC quarterbacks are going to obliterate you. They are going to pick you apart. We saw that a little bit last year, and so I think on paper, it's the biggest weakness on the defense is the pass rush. I also think it's the most concerning because that is a real thing that can break your back week in and week out. If you can't get to the quarterback and can't disrupt these really talented arms who have good receivers to throw to, you're going to be in trouble. And so I feel like having a bad run defense is something that only a few teams would really be able to take advantage of.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. In terms of the ideal starters that could get the job done, I mean, Quincy Rhodes for sure off the edge. And then on the other side,
Phillip Lee?
It's really hard to say. Phillip Lee would be my answer. Just he's got the most track record. And I know is it Troy or whatever, he would need to be that guy. My only other thought would be maybe Justice Boone, who seemed like he was starting to come on for Florida. Then he got injured. Last year was like the post-injury year. So maybe a year removed from it, he could be a guy that could emerge. So one of those two there. And then defensive tackle, obviously Cam Ball. And then, I mean, I think it's got to be Ian Gifford. I know it's just, he still seems situational to me at that size. I mean, when you're nearly 400 pounds like that, and I know he moves well for a guy that big and everything, but are you going to be able to rely on him for 50, 60 snaps in a game? I just don't know that you are. And I just have question marks outside of that. I know people have said that Danny Saili has been, much improved and he's lost a bunch of weight and he's moving better. Okay. But he really didn't play much for you at all last season. So is he going to be able to be a guy who makes the jump from nothing to being an asset as a starter on a SEC defensive line? David Oki, who they went and got out of the portal, is a guy that's done it at a pretty high level at the FCS level though. Could he be the John Ridgeway type, different types of players and sizes and everything, but to make that leap up in competition? And so I don't know that I have a great answer for the ideal combination there. I just think you feel pretty decent about two guys in Quincy and Cam Ball, and then you just need at least two more to really step up. And we're not even talking about depth behind them.
Yeah, I think Quincy checks the boxes. I mean, one, physically, you look at the dude, he looks that's what you want your defensive end in the SEC to look like, is Quincy Rhodes Jr. He also had a nice little step forward last year. I mean, last year was his second year on campus, his second year in college football, and he was a serviceable defensive lineman in the SEC, which may not sound like a big deal. That's very encouraging for a guy who was a big-time recruit that's early in his development. It's reasonable to expect he would be that next step, and he would probably be your best pass rusher, and he kind of needs to be. What it's going to take is for this pass rush to be good, it's going to take someone being way better than we realize, and I think Justice Boone is probably the most likely scenario there. And before we move on, just wanted to answer because I see Camo Gang says, how many against SEC? Talking about Landon Jackson. 5.5 against SEC play in 8 SEC games. So, again, I don't know I really don't know. I'm at the point now because I've been going through it with people on the Discord or whatever. People think that, Arkansas is going to be better on the D-line because Landon Jackson's not there. I've seen multiple people say that, where they're like, Landon Jackson was a huge bust, so, honestly, our D-line, I feel better about it. I'm like, what? It's very bizarre to me. And, again, Landon Jackson was not a huge bust. He was a second-round pick. He had a very proven track record of production. He's by far your best offensive line or best defensive lineman in the last 3 years.
And I also think people don't take into account pressures versus just
Correct.
sacks. And I also don't think people take into account the amount of attention that Landon Jackson drew on a snap by snap basis that frankly Arkansas's guys just aren't going to do this year.
Yeah.
You had to have help with Landon Jackson. It didn't matter who you were playing against. He was going to get biased. So yeah, it's crazy. I knew we were doing that with Andrew Armstrong. It's like, oh, he's gone. So the receivers are going to be better because he's not going to be the security blanket. I did not know. I'm glad I haven't been on the Discord to see that we've been doing that with Landon Jackson. That's kind of crazy to me. Oh man. Okay. We'll shift gears. We'll get back to the chat in a little bit. And again, I think John's going to join us at some point here, but let's get into our heavy hitters presented by our partners over at HD Roofing and Construction. Those storms can hit unexpectedly. When it happens, be sure to contact HD Roofing for your peace of mind with the free inspection. I had Garrett come out and check me out, make sure we were good, and everything was getting crazy with the weather back in March, April, and May. It seemed like every other day it was hailing or something crazy going on. When you choose HD Roofing, you can rely on professionalism, top quality materials, and expert installation for all your roofing needs. Check out hdarkansas.com for more information today. Heavy hitters, and Andrew, go first. I would like you to go first with your heavy hitters. I've got 2 or 3, nothing too crazy today, but
there's not a lot of heavy hitters on my radar these days. One, because I just always forget we're doing this, and so I'm like trying to think of one. But the more I think about it, yesterday my heavy hitter is Garrett Nussmeier. And the reason why, did you see all the stuff going on with Garrett Nussmeier? He broke the internet yesterday. So for those that were not paying attention, Garrett Nussmeier, from what I can tell, the actual story is he tripped and fell at practice. And then when he tripped and fell, a bunch of people come over, rushing, help your quarterback up. There's obviously going to be concern when you have your quarterback go down in any capacity. It quickly became Garrett Nussmeier tore his ACL, out for the year. He was carted off. They had to resuscitate him on the field. It just quickly grew, and so the message boards were going crazy. I multiple buddies texted me about it, and we're like, "Oh crap, Nussmeier's out for the year. I hope this kid from Mississippi State's good." It went crazy, and this time of year, I'm just glad to know that we're not the only people that do this, that freak out over random stuff that doesn't really matter. But it's just good this time of year to have stories that catch everyone's attention, because again, we call it the dog days of summer. It's hard to find things to get us riled up about, but Garrett Nussmeier's fake torn ACL was enough to get me out of bed. I was like, that was kind of exciting, and just watching the panic was pretty cool. So Garrett Nussmeier, shout out to you. You are my we talked about Seth Rollins' fake injury. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier is doing something like that.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. Okay, I've got a couple here, actually 3 that we can go through pretty quick. First of all, I mean,
Cal looks great.
Cal looks great. I gotta say, Sam Pittman looks good too, man. He's definitely dropped some weight. The Sam Pittman John Calipari duo, I like it right here. Anytime Cal's out there on the football field, remember when he was out there? I guess it spring ball or whenever the heck it was, or maybe it was early fall. I can't remember, but he was throwing the pigskin around out there. Yeah, Cal looks good. He looks slim. It's a choice with the sleeves there. It's pretty hot outside today. I love the stunner shades. I like this. This makes me happy right here. I'll give both of these guys heavy hitters. John Calipari, Sam Pittman, smiling. Maybe they're looking up at the Goodyear blimp. I don't know. Maybe they're looking at Taylon Green out there. Either way, makes me happy.
It makes me happy too. I like to see the smile, and also it's it's just cool to see. I always love Hogs supporting Hogs. That's why I was begging Sam Pittman to talk about the baseball team. I always love the crossovers and stuff like that. It's always cool. One thing that I'll say about John Calipari is that when I had the privilege of being next to John Calipari in person, the one thing that I always notice is he's not as big of a guy as you maybe think. You see him on TV, and of course he has the aura. He has a larger than life persona. He looks like a big guy when you see him on TV. You see him in person, he's not a big guy. I mean, he's not small, but he's not I don't know what his what would you guess his height is? 6 foot?
Yeah, maybe
6 foot, which again is, I'm not even 6 foot, not small, but he's just not a big guy in stature. And I don't know why on TV he just looks bigger. So the fact that he's standing next to Sam Pittman here, and Sam Pittman doesn't look that big. Like these look like two similarly sized gentlemen. Pittman's a little bit bigger, but I want to give Pittman credit because, like, obviously, we've covered it before that, like, when he took the job at Arkansas, he was a larger guy and he took it personally and, like, wanted to lose weight and did a great job. I mean, he lost a ton of weight. You look at some pictures of him from back in the day and you're like, whoa, like, it's crazy how different he looks. Not to mention, he also went through a hip surgery, a pretty serious hip surgery that obviously hindered him all of last year. For him to be post-surgery and not really – because, I mean, listen, me personally, if I went through a surgery today, Curtis, of any variety, if it was a tooth surgery, I would gain a bunch of weight just because I'd be like – I'd use it as an excuse to not get up, not do anything, pig out. The fact that Sam Pittman, I feel like he looks like he's in good shape and coming on, being 8-9 months post-op, I think it looks it's a good look for the head hog.
Yeah, not too shabby. Not too shabby at all. Another one that I had, and I'm going to show another picture, but did you see Mike Vrabel? Did you see this story?
Was it did he I saw he went on Bussin' with the Boys. Did he say anything there?
Well, I don't know about that, but I guess they had a fight at practice yesterday and he jumped in the middle of it and he got out of the scrum and he was like bleeding from his cheek and everything. And it's like I don't know if he just like caught a stray or like he ran into somebody's helmet or what happened, but he hopped in there to break it all up. And they were interviewing a bunch of the players after practice and Drake May and some of the other guys. And he was bleeding. He had like an ice pack on his cheek or whatever. And I guess, one of the players like, dang, coach, you all right? And he was like, yeah, you should see the other guy kind of thing. Mike Vrabel was just kind of that dude, but it reminds me of Hunter Yurachek getting cleated at the scrimmage and he's bleeding all over the place. Yeah, Mike Vrabel getting in there, mixing it up at a practice fight. How about that?
Shout out Josh Oglesby for cleating Hunter Yurachek. That was
right.
what that was. You remember Josh Oglesby?
Yep, and Jalen Catalon with the late hit to send him into him. So
yeah, love that. Vrabel. So Vrabel is a guy. I mean, he was the coach for the Titans, and being a Texans rival, I always hated Mike Vrabel, and I hated him because he was a likable guy, and he seemed like a cool locker room presence. Obviously, played for a long time in the NFL, and he's a young guy, so it's like it makes sense that he kind of personality-wise is compelling to these guys. So I always I'm glad that he's no longer in the AFC South, so that I can kind of I don't want to cheer for him. I'm not going that far, but I've always hated to admit that I loved Mike Vrabel. It drove me nuts how much, and it's like that with LSU, and they have cool athletes. Like Joe Burrow. Like when he was at LSU, I just had to pretend like he wasn't cool, and that sucked. So I'm glad Vrabel, and by the way, I think he got a raw deal at Tennessee. Yeah, I think it's been proven by the fact that they've sucked since he left. I think he's going to do a great job in New England. I don't know how good Drake May is going to end up being as an NFL quarterback. Remains to be seen, but I like the Patriots this year. I think they're going to be scrappy overachievers.
I like that. I think I'm into that with you. We're talking about the Patriots, so I got to talk about Bill Belichick for a minute. How about Belichick? And maybe this qualifies as a heavy hitter. I need your opinion first. But kind of embracing the tradition with the throwbacks at North Carolina. They're bringing back the 1980s, and I didn't know what the hell that meant. Well, here they are, the 1980 North Carolina uniforms. First of all, what do you feel about these? Second of all, how about 78 with those monster shoulder pads? And then are there any Razorback uniforms from back in the day that you can recall that you would like to see the Hogs run it back with? Or are we happy with the standards here?
Well, I like the standards that they have now because they are modern versions of I don't know if throwback's the right term, the ones they wore in the 2000s with D-Mac. I like the new ones because they are the old ones.
Yeah.
I don't want those ones that have the hog on the sleeve. I don't want that. I like these uniforms. Another thing that I'm noticing too, Eric Mateos actually talked about how he's the difference between being full pad and just the spiders, really not that different because football players these days do not put on leg pads really. Maybe the thigh pad a little bit. Those thigh pads were obnoxious, very large, and the shoulder pads were obnoxious too. I like those uniforms. Are those going to be the primary North Carolina uniforms?
Maybe they're just wearing them for a game or something. I guess he put the order in for them. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I can get behind that.
Yeah. We'll get into our summer topics things here to wrap up in a minute. There's one more thing that I wanted to run past you and see what you thought about this. Interesting article out at ESPN. I don't know if you saw it or anything or not. They basically took all 136 FBS teams and they placed them into tiers and categories. Are you familiar with this article or not?
I didn't read the article, but I'm like the concept. I feel like I've
Yeah,
seen,
okay.
I've seen some version of that before.
Yeah, it was shortly before the show started. I saw it, but I was looking at it, and what I want to do here is quickly. I'm just going to kind of rattle off any of the categories that could be relevant in the tiers to Arkansas, and then I'm going to share with you where Arkansas is, and I want you to react to this, okay? And you guys can decide if this is fair or foul. I don't know if anybody's read this article or not, but I kept reading and reading and reading, and I'm like, all right, oh yeah, this has got to be the right. No, okay, so the different tiers, it's like different tiers of playoff contenders and stuff like that. That wasn't necessarily relevant. Tier 3 was called "Someone in the SEC Has to Lose," and I was like, well, I mean, hey, if it fits the bill. But they were basically talking about the teams who have playoff aspirations that are going to lose games and maybe not make it. So it was like Florida, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, teams like that. So I was like, okay. Kept scrolling. Tier 7, flying under the radar. Oh, maybe not. It was Georgia Tech, Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, and Washington. It's like, all right, I'm going to keep scrolling. Tier 9, regression to the mean. Tier 8 was regression to the mean on teams that were good last year that are going to come back down to earth, like Missouri. Tier 9 was regression to the means of teams who have kind of stunk, but are going to make their way back up. Well, this list had Auburn, Florida State, NC State, and Virginia Tech. So I'm like, damn, I keep scrolling. I get to tier 11, potential sleepers. Okay, baby. No, Cincinnati, Colorado, Houston, North Carolina, Pitt, Rutgers, and Virginia. Arkansas was in tier 12. You know what the name for tier 12 was? Even Steven. Just toiling in mediocrity with 7 other teams, man. Kentucky, Boston College, Cal, Maryland, Michigan State, and UCLA. Just stuck.
I would love to push back against this. I think Arkansas is even Steven, man. Like I really think they are. And because here's the thing about Arkansas is like, it's not like they have this super low floor, you know, like they really like Arkansas is not going to go 2-10 this year. Like we agree on that. Like this is not like a Chad Morris team. You know what I mean? Like this is not going to be a team that quits on the field and just completely phones it in. Maybe they lose to Memphis or something like that, but like they're not just going to stink their way through the entire season. I think the floor really is like 4-8. But I just think it's like a very realistic floor. I think the ceiling's like 7-5. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like they're like right in that. You know, you can't really talk yourself into them being a playoff contender. Although I've seen some people in the media already doing that. You can't really like. There's not really a case to be made, in my opinion, that Arkansas makes the playoff. But I also don't think there's a case to be made that they're like going to be the worst team in the league. You know what I mean? Like I just think they're stuck in that purgatory. In pro sports, Arkansas is the team you don't want to be. Now, in college sports, I actually think stability is underrated sometimes. Now, I'm not saying that Arkansas is an underrated program. I think some people don't realize that it could be a lot worse. You know what I mean? And so it's not the worst thing in the world to be a consistent 6-6 program, especially in the SEC where it's hard to go 6-6. But I mean, I don't really see an argument for Arkansas being not that. You can maybe talk yourself into one of those other tiers of whatever, but I think that's probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now listen, it does. If Arkansas goes out there and has a great year, obviously, you change that. If Arkansas goes 8-4, they won't be in that category next year. They'll be in the like either potential sleepers or maybe regression to the mean or whatever. But it's like for now, I don't know how that's the case.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you, man. I think I'm with you for sure. Crazy, it so drives me nuts, and they've been doing that a lot with basketball. Where it's like it was like 100 days until the start of the college basketball season. It's these long, like 25-minute reads. I'm like, all right, where's the Arkansas stuff? I keep reading. I do this thing on the Pot at the Palace every day where I'm like, oh, if they fit in here, no, not here. Oh, here, no, not here. Crazy, man.
Also, I see this here from David, who's just a resident asshole in the chat. Just constantly pissed off and angry all the time.
Says,
we're not going 2-10. You sure? Guys, I know that y'all don't remember the Chad Morris era. We know what a 2-10 team at Arkansas looks like. I am very confident this team is not that. Now, Does that mean they're going to be good? By no, but it's like 2-10. You have to basically try to go 2-10, and I don't think Arkansas is going to try and go 2-10. That doesn't mean they're going to be good, but they're not. No, this is not a 2-10 team.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I think-
goodness. It wasn't that long ago. You guys should be able to remember what a 2-10 team really looks, feels, smells, and acts like.
Exactly. All right, we'll get into some more of your chats as we wrap up here. But first, we got to get to our dog days of summer topics presented by our friends over at Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas. We're going to be there on Wednesday on a boat, baby, doing a show. We're excited about that. Summer's starting to wind down a little bit, but Labor Day is coming around. When is a better time to be out on the water than Labor Day? It's like a tradition as old as time. You don't own a boat, it doesn't matter. You don't have to, because they've got you covered at Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas, giving you access to the boats without the commitment. This is boating that fits your lifestyle, fun, flexible, and stress-free. There are 3 locations in Arkansas, so lake time is closer than you think. Whether you prefer Greer's Ferry Lake, Lake Hamilton, or a day on the river in Little Rock, Freedom Boat Club of Arkansas will make your summer in the natural state the best one yet. So check out the website, www.freedomboatclubar.com today to learn more about the benefits of joining the club. Okay. So we've usually got the 3 questions. We got sports, food, entertainment. We got the same exact thing going on here today. Let's get it started with the sports category. And Andrew, we'll let you go first, buddy. What is your favorite upset of all time in Razorback sports history?
2007, Arkansas goes to Baton Rouge and they beat LSU in 3 overtimes, 50-48. It was a moment in time. It was obviously led to maybe the most iconic post-game interview on the field of all time. For 3 hours, I don't know, maybe 4 hours, the best team in the country today. Listen, and LSU went on to win the national title, and that's what kind of sucks about it. I just remember, also I was in, I think, 4th grade when this happened, which, like, when when you have big moments in your life when you're that young, it's like that never leaves you. I'll never forget how I felt in that moment of just like the satisfaction of being like, listen, this season we thought we were going to be, this awesome team. We ended up going 8-4, whatever, or 8-5 after the Cotton Bowl. Season maybe wasn't as cool as we wanted. Cool. McFadden not going to win the Heisman because they're going to give it to Tebow. Cool. LSU, they're going to be a 10-2 national champion. Whatever. But today we went into their spot and we whipped their ass. And obviously it was an overtime game. Didn't whip their ass. But it's like how satisfying that felt. You know how, like, you're arguing with your buddy and, like, you have that one thing that, like, he has in his back pocket that he can be like, yeah, but you did this. And it's like, you can sit there and say, yeah, well, you did this and then, and it's like, but he kind of has that ace of spades that, yeah, but you did this. It felt like Arkansas got that on that night where it was like everything, nothing else mattered. We beat LSU and we're the best team in the country tonight. And Houston Nutt eloquated it flawlessly. And that's what sports is all about. It's that it makes us ignore everything else because in that moment we feel like we're on top of the world. And that was the most on top of the world I've felt.
John Neighbors.
John Neighbors.
All right, what'd I miss?
Nothing. We're just doing the best that we can to fill the void here in your absence. We're glad you made it back. We just let everybody know that you were out temporarily. We told them that you said you were doing a fancy business meeting. We thought you were just practicing your beatboxing for tonight. So
Yeah, well, it's I'm gonna have to dust that thing off of it. Everything. I'm sure everybody was so super disappointed that I wasn't able to be on the show the majority of the time. But no, but it's I'm feeling good, guys. I'm feeling good, and my favorite time to show up is late, right before it ends. So I'm glad I could make it for this.
Oh yeah, we're glad you're here. What's your favorite upset all time Razorback sports history?
Yeah, I heard Andrew talking about the 3 hours, maybe even 4 hours. Still, have a bittersweet feeling about that one because it made me mad. It's like, yeah, you had a number 1 win over a number 1 team, but you still lost to Kentucky and Tennessee and Alabama that year. So, but either way, honestly, I'm going to go back to actually the one we posted for being 23 days away when Arkansas beat Tennessee in the redemption game of '99. Now, I'm not saying that actually redeemed what happened that year before, but I remember that was kind of like the first big upset of another big team that I remember as a kid, and how it was cool. And they were about to do the big renovations, and so they took down the goalpost. They put it on Dixon Street. The fact that it was the same score as it was the previous year, just the opposite way. It was a pretty sweet thing. And also, I hated Tennessee. I hated Fat Boy Phil Fulmer and all of them. So to me, that's It just means something more to me probably, and because it was the first one I actually remember.
I like it. No, I like that a lot. I was thinking about this from a basketball standpoint, and it's kind of tough, man, because I don't know. When I think about where Arkansas basketball is, it's hard for me to look at a whole bunch of teams and be like, oh, Arkansas beating them was this massive upset. Because at first I was going to be like, oh, well, I got to go with beating number 1 Auburn and everything like that. But that's like that was a crazy Auburn team. They were just number
like
one.
a 2-point underdog.
Yeah. An underrated, honestly, and if you really think about all the circumstances, was beating St. John's this year. And I think Arkansas was better than a 10 seed. They earned that 10 seed because they sucked for half the season or whatever. They were playing better than that once you got to that point. But to me, it's a 10 seed versus a 2 seed. You had the Cal Patino thing, but there were all those people out there who were doing it's a coaching mismatch and all that stuff involved with it. And it was in Providence where we were in there, and that was a road game against a 2 seed in a hostile environment. And it's a 10-2, which is an upset. I think that's an overrated one. And I put more weight on that than I put any regular season upset, because that was an NCAA tournament game where you got it done to send you to the Sweet 16. So a lot at stake there when Arkansas went and got it done. Like if the roles were reversed, and Arkansas was a 2 seed and they got, popped by a 10 seed, in the second round of the tournament, we'd never hear the end of it. So I think it was a big deal. And I don't know if that's the best one of all time or anything like that, but it's certainly going to be one that I remember for a long, long time. And I think it's underrated in terms of the gravity of exactly what they did that day.
I'm going to, so I agree with, I think the St. John's one is definitely an underrated upset. I think we'll remember it that way when we look back. We'll be like, damn, we're a 10 seed that went to the Sweet 16. Like, that was cool. Plus, like, just how cool it was, because it was our first cool moment with Cal, really. You know what I mean? The reason that I think the Gonzaga game is a better NCAA tournament upset is because I think that so much of the story with St. John's is we kind of went into that game, and us and a lot of fans thinking that St. John's was like maybe fraudulent. You know what I mean? Like thinking, hey, this team, they can't really score. Are we sure they're really that was kind of a narrative going in, is like, hey, the talent between these two teams is actually like not really there. The reason I go Gonzaga, and I think they had their fair share of fraud allegations of people that were like, oh, they didn't play anybody, whatever. But I mean, they were the number 1 overall seed, and it was like, they were that whole year, Gonzaga played awesome basketball. Like it felt like a huge deal. One, of course, you're going to the Elite Eight, another one for Muss. Big deal. I just remember how satisfying it felt being so prepared for that moment. Like, that was like my most proud. I mean, Eric Musselman gave us a lot of great moments, but like just how ready they were for rising to the occasion. Like, that's the best feelings in sports, is when your team rises to the challenge. It's cool to play a team that's actually not that good, but it's really cool to play a team that is good, and then actually level up and play your best game of the year in the biggest moment of the year. Trey Wade hitting all those corner threes. It's that one, and then of course like the Devo tears after, like that's a big one.
That was that's a really good one. I didn't even think about it because I was thinking about where Arkansas is seated. It's like they're a 4 seed, so they're really good. But you're right. I mean, number 1 overall seed, man.
I mean, dude,
Chet Holmgren and all those guys, like that was a big one.
I would have to go back and look. I bet the game spreads were not terribly dissimilar between St. John's and Gonzaga, because 10 versus 2, but we all knew Arkansas wasn't a real 10 seed, and we knew St. John's wasn't a real 2 seed. With Gonzaga, it was like, I thought Arkansas was a good 4 seed, and they were a good 1 seed. It was like honestly, like both teams I felt like were actually good.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so I guess we got. Have you guys done the other 2 ones?
You have not.
No, I was about to say. So you want to keep going? You go. No, go ahead. We haven't done the other 2 yet.
I can do these. Yeah, I'll take over from here in the final couple of minutes.
Yeah, got it from here.
Take a break. Take a break, Curtis. Let's see. All right, so the food side of things. What's the most overrated restaurant of all time? Now, we got to be careful about this, because you never know when one of these fine establishments may end up being a sponsor of us here at Inside Arkansas. But we can delete this later if anything gets said about them. But what would you say is the most overrated restaurant of all time?
Oh man, this is tough. I have a very definitive answer that I can't say for those reasons. So I'm gonna leave it to myself. So I got to think about something else. Man, this is tough. Well, let me ask you guys this, and I like it, so I don't want to get it misconstrued, but I think a lot of people might feel this way too. just with this cult type of hype that it has, In-N-Out Burger is just kind of standard fare in my opinion. Like I don't think it's great.
So I'm gonna zag on this one just because I literally went to In-N-Out the other day and I texted Hillary this exact thing. It's not that In-N-Out Burger really is this like godsend of like it's going to change your life. It's the best, whatever. But I would actually argue, Curtis, because I think a lot of people agree with you. I'd say most of America probably even agrees with you. Like I hear more people complaining about how overrated In-N-Out is than I do people actually declaring it. I'm sure now that this has changed a little bit over the years because I think about a decade ago maybe it was a little bit different. But I hear a lot of people who echo your sentiment that they're like, is it really this like groundbreaking thing? And they're right. Like it's not this.
You just can't get it everywhere. And so I think yeah.
And my argument is it's my favorite fast food burger, which isn't saying a ton.
Really?
You know, I don't know if there's a ton of great fast food burgers, but like, I mean, maybe there's a couple that are in contention, but like I enjoy In-N-Out more than I enjoy the Wendy's, you know, McDonald's, Burger King, like any of those. And I know those
would you go Whataburger or In-N-Out?
I'd go In-N-Out 10 times out of 10 over Whataburger.
Oh, wow.
And I like Whataburger, but most of the times I go to Whataburger, I don't get the burger. I think the burger is like the seventh best thing on their menu.
Well, I'll say that, by saying something's overrated doesn't mean it's bad. You know what I'm saying? It's just maybe.
For sure.
So, but to me, like, I think In-N-Out is up there with me. It was the one I was leaning towards just because like, the burgers are good, very good. But if you don't have anything else that's good, because the fries are so below average to me, it kind of ruins it a little bit, which, is weird because I'd rather have a great entree than, great fries, but you got to have a good combo. And it just doesn't make any sense of why it's so bad when you're so good.
You know what I appreciate about In-N-Out though? It's like $6 for a burger. Like, because I feel like a place like In-N-Out that has, like you said, the cult following, you would think it would be one of those places that has like a $14.89 single patty burger type of thing. I appreciate that they're pretty cheap in terms of the spectrum.
I'll tell you this right now. Cookout clears In-N-Out.
Okay, I've had Cookout once and I did like it a lot. I had to go back before I could.
And it's also a way more versatile menu, so it's kind of different, but yeah.
So I'm going to be full disclosure here. When I read the tweet earlier, I think it said most overrated food of all time, but maybe I misread it.
You misread it. It's what's most overrated restaurant of all time.
Damn. Never mind.
Well, what's the food?
Okay. So I came in prepared for food, but I will give you the restaurant and I saw someone in the chat say it. It's objectively, and this is the correct answer. Chipotle is the single most, in terms of how it's viewed publicly to how it actually performs. Chipotle has become like a part of American society. Like it's a thing that everyone talks about. Athletes have these deals with it, and it's not even in the top 5 of Mexican Subway chains.
I like Qdoba over Chipotle.
Qdoba,
sure.
Moe's is better. Izzo's, I don't know if Izzo's is a thing anymore. Like I think there's a lot of better. Like if you're gonna go the burrito route, I think Chipotle's like at best middle of the pack in the burrito game or the food bowl game, the dog food bowl game. I think Chipotle, because it has such a prominent, everyone, it's like a guaranteed thing. They love Chipotle. I think it's extremely mediocre.
Dude, give me Flying Burrito. I still love that place from way back when. It's like the first, I think it was in Fayetteville at least. It was like the first place like that before these chains came in. And
well, dude, people look at you crazy. If you said to like 7 people today, you're like, yeah, I'm going to Flying Burrito for dinner. They would look at you like you were insane. They would be like, you're eating Flying Burrito? But if you say I'm going to eat Chipotle, people are like, oh, Chipotle.
Oh, you must be.
It's like, dude, it's like they are very similar value places, I feel like.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm going to go eat Chipotle. And it's like, oh, you must be thinking you're better than everybody else and you have a good body. It's like, that's why. No, because when it's
wearing yoga
Chipotle,
pants,
it's healthy. It's healthy when it's from Chipotle.
I was trying to get outside of the fast food-ish range and like to an actual chain restaurant type of thing, but I'm a sucker for all those places. Like, I love Chili's, bro.
You are going to hear me talk about
I'll go to Olive Garden. Yeah, I love all those places, man.
Yeah.
Can I just spit my food take real quick though?
Yeah, what was
Because
it?
I really thought about this a lot. I was like excited to do this. So okay, one, I know that this is gonna ruffle some feathers. Kingsley, cover your ears, buddy. The single most overrated food item on this planet. And again, it's not that it's bad. I eat it all the time. I enjoy it all the time. The single most overrated thing in terms of how it's viewed versus how it performs, it's brisket. And now I know everyone's going to say, well, dude, you got to go to my cousin's. My cousin can whip up the brisket. I've had brisket in Memphis. I've had brisket in Kansas City. I've had brisket in Austin. I've had brisket in whatever people deem the greatest barbecue spot of all time. I've had brisket at all of them. It's the exact same thing. They are all the exact. You could go get brisket from Dollar General right now and then go to the finest cuisine in Kansas City. It's going to be the exact same brisket. It is the exact same thing every time. And by the way, it's not a bad thing. It's good. I will eat it and I will be fine. People talk about brisket like it's the holy grail. Like it's like, oh, dude, nah, bro. Dude, my uncle can get on the grill and throw you up a good brisket. You got to have it at my cousin's house or whatever. It's like, it's all the exact same thing. And it's, again, I like it. I eat it. It's fine. It's crazy that people talk about brisket like it's like this mind-blowing experience. And by the way, I know I told Kingsley to cover his ears. Kingsley has had the best brisket I've ever eaten came from Kingsley, and I ate it like 2 days. It was in the fridge for a couple days. Like it was like just kind of random. I thought his actually tasted different than other briskets, and so maybe actually I shame people for saying, "Oh, my grandpa or whatever, my cousin." Maybe Kingsley's my answer for this. Oh, you got to have it. This guy in Fort Worth, he'll cook you up a good brisket.
Brisket's like I'm in a way I'm with you. Like brisket's probably fourth or something on my barbecue power rankings, like the type of barbecue that I like to have. So
Yeah. To me, it's really good, and I love brisket, but it's also not like one of those things that if I'm eating barbecue, then I have to have brisket. It's like something that I'll switch it up with a little bit. But okay, I tell you what, in our last one, as far as entertainment goes, very simple. But who do you think is the greatest actor or actress of all time?
Man, I have been, always will be Denzel Washington guy. Love Denzel. Anything that he's in, I'm watching it. I'm all over it. That's my number one. Clears by far. Yeah, that's my guy.
I think Denzel is like he's probably the 1-1. Like he's the number one overall pick. Like if you can,
yeah, dude,
have anything, I have a hard time going against him. I mean, honestly, like I'm trying to think of like an off the wall answer here because like the next person that came to my mind is of course Leo. Like I feel like Leo has to be at least mentioned in this category. Give me a minute, and I'm going to come up with like a weirder answer that's good.
Okay.
Well, I'll have probably a weird answer. It's not weird, but because I think those are obviously very good picks. Daniel Day-Lewis, that dude in every movie he plays in, which is not many, he goes way so far above and beyond to like become that person. It's kind of weird almost, but like he is him, and also somebody I feel like doesn't maybe get enough credit. Christian Bale, and the way that he is like goes above and beyond with his body transformations, with his different approaches. I don't know if it's healthy to do that, which I don't think it is, but anybody that goes to those limits and to those things to just be in a movie and be a character, I always got a lot of respect because I would not want to do that. So those are just a couple.
I can't believe I let you take Christian Bale from me because he's a stud, dude. And he's also, by the way, the versatility I feel like is underrated because there's a lot of good actors that like kind of are just like the same everywhere. You know what I mean? Like it's like just the same bit. Christian Bale's a good one. And he's had a long little run here, and he gets into like some weird stuff too. He does some that are weird. By the way, another Batman actor that I feel like is crazy. I never thought I'd say this. I feel like he's becoming underrated in the acting world is Robert Pattinson. Obviously, he started his career with Twilight, and so I think every time you hear Robert Pattinson's name, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. He's putting together a nice little resume here. He's been in some Christopher Nolan movies. He's Batman now. Like, he's having a nice little run here. What was the other? One more name I wanted. Oh, this is a classic, of course. Johnny Depp had a stretch there where, like, he was the most entertaining actor on the planet. And he would always, of course, he always does the weird dress ups. I mean, Jack Sparrow, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like, he likes doing the weird roles, but I feel like he had a stretch where it was like he was like must watch television.
Hey, all solid answers. All right. Well, I know I've put in a lot of work on the show today, but any final thoughts for you guys before we roll out here for the day?
Oh man. Well, we got a lot more talking to do today. So make sure you tap in for the members only stream tonight at 8 p.m. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. We're looking forward to that. I'm going on with Aaron Torres here shortly, our man AT. So if you want to hear some Arkansas Razorback basketball talk, check that out. Yeah, recording the pod at the Palace too. So make sure you check that out in the morning. Just a lot of talking. No, I don't have any more thoughts. I will share them throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, I don't have any more final thoughts. You got to become a member and you got to see the stream if you want to hear my final thoughts. And trust me, they're good.
Yeah, that was also my final thought. My final thought is you get to hear final thoughts later. So be there for the members only stream tonight, 8 p.m. right here in Inside Arkansas. So we appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into Inside Arkansas Live. Be sure to subscribe to us here at Inside Arkansas on our YouTube page. You can also check out all of our audio podcasts wherever podcasts are found, whether it's Inside Arkansas Live, Pod at the Palace, or the Bombastic Podcast, as well as check us out on social media at Inside Arkansas. And that'll do it for us today. For Andrew Ellis, Curtis Wilkerson, I'm John Neighbors. Same sports show, same sports channel tomorrow at noon. We'll see you later tonight for the members only stream. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.